On September 15th, 1963, a horrific act of racial violence shook the nation when the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, was bombed by members of the Ku Klux Klan. The explosion killed 4 young African-American girls: Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, and Carol Denise McNair, and injured many others. This church was a pivotal gathering place for civil rights activists, making it a target for white supremacists. The tragedy became a turning point in the civil rights movement, galvanizing support for the fight against segregation and racial injustice. Despite the FBI's quick identification of the bombers, justice was delayed for decades due to political indifference and systemic racism. By 1965, the FBI had identified 4 Klansmen responsible for the bombing: Robert Chambliss, Thomas Blanton, Bobby Frank Cherry, and Herman Frank Cash. However, no arrests were made at the time. The case was controversially shelved in 1968, with allegations that political pressures and the FBI's reluctance to pursue white supremacists played a role. For years, the victims' families were denied justice, while the perpetrators walked free. The case remained a painful reminder of the deep-seated racism within the justice system, leaving many to wonder if accountability would ever come. It wasn't until 1977, 14 years after the bombing, that the first conviction was secured. Robert Chambliss, then 73, was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. The case was reopened in the 1990s as new evidence emerged, leading to the prosecution of Blanton and Cherry in 2001 and 2002, respectively. Both were convicted and sentenced to life. Herman Frank Cash, the 4th suspect, died in 1994 without facing trial. These belated convictions brought some measure of closure, but the delays underscored the systemic failures that allowed racial violence to go unpunished for so long. The 16th Street Baptist Church bombing remains one of the most infamous crimes of the civil rights era. The 4 girls, Addie, Cynthia, Carol, and Denise, are remembered as martyrs whose deaths fueled the movement for equality. Their legacy lives on in memorials, books, and documentaries that honor their lives and the ongoing fight for justice. While the convictions decades later provided accountability, the case serves as a stark reminder of how racism can obstruct justice. The bombing and its aftermath continue to resonate, urging society to confront its past and strive for a more just future. The bombing wasn't just an attack on a church. It was an assault on the heart of the Black community in Birmingham. The 16th Street Baptist Church had been a sanctuary for civil rights meetings, a place where leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth organized protests against segregation. The Klansmen who planted the bomb knew exactly what they were doing, striking fear into those fighting for equality. But tragedy forced America to confront the brutal reality of racial hatred, sparking national outrage and helping build momentum for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Yet for the families of the 4 girls, no law could bring back their loved ones. In the years following the bombing, the FBI's failure to act became its own scandal. Files later revealed that J. Edgar Hoover, the Bureau's director, had evidence linking the Klansmen to the crime, but chose not to pursue charges. Some historians believe Hoover was more focused on surveilling civil rights activists than prosecuting white supremacists. The case was officially closed in 1968, leaving the victims' families in anguish. It wasn't until the 1990s, with a renewed push for justice and advances in forensic technology, that prosecutors finally revisited the case, determined to hold the remaining perpetrators accountable. The convictions of Blanton and Cherry in the early 2000s were bittersweet victories. While justice was finally served, it came far too late for many. Parents of the girls had passed away without seeing accountability. The trials relied on old FBI recordings where the suspects were heard bragging about the bombing, along with new witness testimonies. The legal battles also exposed how deeply racism had infected law enforcement, with former FBI agents admitting they could have acted sooner. The case became a symbol of both the long arc of justice and the painful cost of delay, especially for Black Americans seeking equality under the law. Today, the 16th Street Baptist Church stands as both a memorial and an active place of worship. A stained glass window, donated by Wales in memory of the 4 girls, depicts a Black Christ with arms outstretched in solidarity. The church is now a National Historic Landmark, ensuring the victims are never forgotten. Schools, documentaries, and museums continue to teach this story, reminding new generations of the sacrifices made in the fight for civil rights. Yet, the bombing also raises difficult questions. How many other racial crimes remain unresolved? And how can America truly reckon with its history of racial violence? The legacy of the 4 girls lives on in the ongoing struggle for justice. Their names are invoked in discussions about hate crimes, reparations, and police reform. In 2013, Congress posthumously awarded them the Congressional Gold Medal, the nation's highest civilian honor. But honors alone aren't enough. Activists argue that real justice means addressing systemic racism that still exists today. The bombing may have happened in 1963, but its lessons are timeless. Hatred festers when unchecked, and justice delayed is justice denied. The fight for equality, as this case proves, is far from over. As we reflect on this dark chapter, we must ask ourselves, how far have we really come? The 16th Street Baptist Church bombing reminds us that progress is fragile and must be actively defended. The 4 little girls, Addie, Cynthia, Carol, and Denise, were robbed of their futures, but their memory inspires change. Their story is a call to action, urging us to confront racism wherever it exists. Let us honor them, not just with words, but with a commitment to justice, equality, and a future where such hatred has no place. Their voices may have been silenced, but their impact echoes through history.